All right, so is Georgia going to play G-Day or not? I can't believe I'm asking this question, but you see so many different schools that are saying, well, we're not going to play spring games. And if you notice, Georgia's not announced G-Day yet. Now, I'm recording this on the 23rd of February, so it may be by the time that you watch this, they've already announced that they're having it or not. But let me give you some insight into what's going on, what's next, etc., as we barrel towards the start of spring football. Okay, so the latest is that Georgia has not announced a G-Day game, and the folks I talked to at Georgia anticipate that there still will be a G-Day. There's a few different reasons why. Mainly, I think they don't really see any reason not to do it. I think that's sort of the things that have been expressed at Nebraska, for instance, which is different than what's been expressed at Texas. At Nebraska, Matt Rule is saying, hey, we've got guys that are on our team that other people are poaching them, and they're just watching the film and they're offering them money and they're leaving. Okay. Part of me says you're Nebraska, that's going to happen. I mean, no offense, you're not that big of a deal, or at least you're not Ohio State, Georgia, whoever. Texas is as big of a deal as Georgia. And Texas is not going to have one, it looks like, or at least that's their indication. And their athletic director, who's been around the block for a while, Chris Del Conte, he said, hey, look, we played a game just before Christmas with Clemson. Then we played on New Year's. Then we played the Orange Bowl. He said, we're playing way more games than we're used to. We just, kind of want to slow things down. I'm not sure if I buy that necessarily. I mean, whatever. I mean, whatever explanation or you want to not play the game is your explanation. But one thing that's going to happen here over time, however, is that there are obligations, whether they're written in a contract or they're understood, between Disney, Fox, their actual name is News Corporation, and these schools and the conferences. And for instance, last year, Texas's spring game was on ABC, if I'm not mistaken. If it was not on ABC, it was on ESPN. And it was a promotion for the SEC having Texas come into the league. Now, is it a big deal globally for Disney not to have Texas, Georgia, Alabama, LSU spring games? No. Is it a big deal in terms of the relationship? Yeah, it is, because something's going to have to be exchanged for that spring game. Something's going to happen to get value out of that. While I've got your attention, check out the link down below from our good friends at BetMGM. Use the promo code MEGABET, MEGABET, to get a chance of up to $1,500 on bonus bets if your first bet doesn't win. The link is right down below. You can bet on any number of things. Futures for the NFL, futures for college football. They got baseball betting, all sorts of things that you can have fun with. Let's be responsible about it. Don't miss out on this. It's a really cool thing. Again, from our buddies over at BetMGM, use the promo code MEGABET, MEGABET. Get a chance for up to $1,500 in bonus bets if your first bet doesn't win. Check it out. Links right down below. Kirby, just as an example, I know Georgia's situation better than anybody else's. Kirby Smart's the most expensive head coach in college football, over $13 million a year. The bulk of that contract is paid because of either agreements with media corporations or coming from the Athletic Association, which gets a huge portion of its revenues from media agreements. If Disney told Georgia, we would like you to play at noon, there's really no like. It is, you're playing at noon. This is when we're broadcasting you. If you picked up on this, you picked up on it. If you haven't, you haven't. I mean, think about it, y'all. Georgia, Florida is at 3:30. That's the one game that Georgia kind of has the ability to say, we're not doing anything other than that. That game is at 3:30. That's all there is to it. But Disney's cool with that. Think about it like this. Every single year, each SEC school has at least one exclusively streaming football game. That wasn't the case in the past. You have to buy the Disney product to get that game. Think about playing Georgia Tech on a Friday night. That wasn't Georgia's choice. They may have been cool with it, but that was something ABC wanted to do. And I've been kind of warning that this was going to happen for a long time. So these are relationships. These are relationships between the rights holder and the people getting paid by the rights holder. And so for these games to go away, as from the rights holder standpoint, it's not a huge deal. But it is 2 weekends worth of content that the rights holder can't put on ABC, ESPN, ESPN2, the SEC network. Like, it's content, and content is king, period. That's all there is to it. From Georgia's perspective as a football program, and again, I'm not aware that they have canceled this, and I'm assuming that this will move forward, G-Day. But from Georgia's perspective, there's a couple of things to think about. All right, so what are those things? First of all, it's a recruiting weekend, and there's not a lot of recruiting weekends in a year where you have a home stadium. So that's one thing to keep in mind, is that G-Day is recruiting is still important. I mean, it still matters to a lot of people. And so that's one of the few weekends. Let's just say there are 7, maybe 8. I mean, Georgia rarely has 7 home games, but do they have 7 this year? I'll have to look at that as I talk. But it's not a common thing for for the Dogs to have 8 home. That just never happens. So this weekend, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, they have 7 home games. This would be the 8th, in theory, home game that you actually have a crowd there and everything. So it's for a recruiting standpoint. I do think it's important. It's not the end of the world. There is one thing that's happened lately about G-Day. They charge for G-Day now. And so let's just say there's 92,000 tickets sold. That's not really what it is. But let's just say it's $10 per ticket. That's about $1 million of revenue that you would be throwing away by not having G-Day. I mean, that's revenue from tickets. Nevertheless, concessions and so forth. I don't know what the actual dollar amount take home would be from that, but it doesn't cost anything specific. You're not selling food for the ticket. I mean, there's energy costs and there's other offsets like that, but it's of that $1 million, they probably keep a pretty healthy portion of just the ticket sales alone, nevertheless concessions and so forth. And the other thing is you don't get to fundraise that day. So there's a lot of reasons why you would keep a spring football game, to be honest with you. And for the record, Texas, Nebraska, SC, those schools are the outliers right now. The vast majority of schools are keeping spring games and they're televising them. Now, what are the schools that don't do that going to be, what are they going towards instead? Texas is talking about having OTAs, organized training, just like the NFL has. And OTAs in the NFL, those have always been, those are sort of off-season things, stuff that, not during the season. They're OTAs. So an OTA can be any sort of thing. It means organized team activity, but it can be a mini camp. It could be a rookie camp, 7-on-7, skellies, a zillion different things. There's rules. I can throw it on the screen for the Players Association so you can see it. Well, I'm not gonna throw it on here because there are all sorts of rules that are dictated. But those guys in the NFLPA, they are in a union that doesn't exist in college football right now. So that's what Texas is doing. They're going to more OTA sort of situations and making it more like a professional situation. There's a lot of guys in the NFL where when the playoffs are over, they're gone. They're not at the facility. They're not around. None of that stuff. And they're off until OTAs. And then when OTAs are done, they're out. They're out until training camp. They're not doing, I'm not talking about like the Aaron Rodgers of the world. I'm talking about everybody else. They're just out. So mini camps can be another thing. There's any number of ways that Texas could think about doing this. And we'll just see. But for Georgia, I think, there's definitely value in spring games. I think that I know that you cannot create game atmosphere in practice. It's very hard. The band is legitimately playing at spring games. There's, this, that, and the other that goes on. But everybody at Georgia is under the assumption that G-Day is moving forward as usual. I know the merchants in Athens, it's a big day for them. I personally, I used to I've missed many G-Days. I'm sure I've been to a lot. I wonder how many G-Days I've missed. Probably 6 since I've been doing this. I'm okay missing G-Days. But I've probably missed more G-Days than games in the last 25 years, to be honest with you. It's close. But I think the thing, too, about G-Day is it is, or A-Day at Alabama, or, or blue, I don't know what Auburn or Florida calls theirs. But that day is an important moment it's the last look before the season. And I do think if you take that away, even for good reason, that's going to aggravate the fan base in a way that's not really necessary. And I think that the coaches probably don't care about that. They're more internal in what they're thinking about. They're thinking about their team. But that, at some stage you do have to take consideration of the people that are paying your bills. And let me tell you, the fans are paying the bills. Whether the coaching folks, the ADs, the coaches, the presidents understand that or not, I'm not sure. Sometimes I think they don't understand that. I think they think that the money just comes out of nowhere. No mistake about it. College football fans are paying for the bills, whether they're donating, paying for tickets, paying merchandise, paying for cable subscriptions, watching games. All of these things are the way that college coaches are getting paid. And if you were to aggravate that group, it will decline over time. Over time, it will decline. Kirby Smart's in a different position than most people. He's the most successful college football coach out there right now. And so his situation at Georgia is different. Then again, it doesn't look like Georgia's going to be skipping G-Day. But stay tuned, because there's a little bit of here and there about it. We'll just see. What do you think? Should Georgia have a G-Day or not? It's not been announced yet. Thanks for watching.